Have you ever watched someone systematically destroy the very thing they claim to want most, like a person setting fire to their own home while insisting they love where they live? This peculiar form of self-sabotage becomes particularly fascinating when examining how avoidants twist cognitive dissonance into self-destruction, turning their own minds into weapons against their deepest desires for connection. Picture this scenario. Someone desperately wants love and intimacy, yet every time they get close to achieving it, they begin dismantling the relationship piece by piece. They create elaborate mental gymnastics to justify pushing away the very person who could give them what they crave. This internal contradiction creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable tension when our beliefs and actions don't align. While most people resolve this tension by changing either their thoughts or behaviors, avoidants have mastered a third option. They weaponize the discomfort itself. The human mind, you see, abhors contradiction, much like nature abhors a vacuum. When faced with conflicting beliefs, the brain scrambles to restore harmony through various mental tricks and shortcuts called cognitive biases. For avoidants, these biases become both shield and sword, protecting them from vulnerability while simultaneously cutting down any chance of genuine connection. Understanding this process reveals why intelligent, capable people can become their own worst enemies in relationships. What makes this particularly tragic is how avoidants often possess remarkable self-awareness. They can articulate their patterns, identify their triggers, and even predict their own self-destructive behaviors. Yet knowledge alone proves insufficient against the powerful psychological forces at play. Like watching a slow-motion car crash, they see themselves heading toward disaster, but feel powerless to change course. The very mechanisms designed to protect them from emotional harm end up creating the exact pain they sought to avoid. This exploration will uncover the intricate ways avoidants manipulate their own thinking to maintain distance while convincing themselves they're being rational. From confirmation bias to the fundamental attribution error, these mental shortcuts become tools of self-deception. More importantly, understanding these patterns offers hope, because once illuminated, these unconscious processes lose much of their power. The goal isn't to eliminate cognitive biases entirely, which would be impossible, but to recognize them in action and make conscious choices about how to respond. If you want to better understand someone's attachment style, see the link in the description to one of the most popular books on attachment theory. Now, let's examine how this plays out in real relationships through the story of a brilliant woman who nearly destroyed the best thing that ever happened to her. Sarah worked as a marketing executive at a prestigious firm, the kind of person who could strategize her way out of any professional challenge. Her analytical mind served her well in boardrooms, but in matters of the heart, this same sharp intellect became a double-edged sword. When Sarah met David at a mutual friend's wedding, the connection was immediate and undeniable. He was kind, stable, and genuinely interested in her thoughts and dreams. For the first few months, everything felt effortless. David would text good morning messages that made her smile, plan thoughtful dates, and listen with genuine curiosity about her work projects. Sarah found herself looking forward to their time together in ways that both thrilled and terrified her. But here's where the story takes a familiar turn for many avoidants. Just as Sarah began to feel truly comfortable with David, her mind started working overtime to find problems that didn't exist. The same analytical skills that made her successful at work now turned inward, scrutinizing every aspect of their relationship like a detective searching for evidence of a crime. She noticed how David sometimes left dishes in the sink overnight and transformed this minor habit into proof that he was fundamentally irresponsible. When he expressed excitement about introducing her to his parents, she interpreted his enthusiasm as neediness and pressure. What's particularly revealing about Sarah's internal process is how she used confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that supports existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. Every small annoyance became magnified and catalogued, while David's consistent kindness and reliability were dismissed as too good to be true. Like Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl analyzing social hierarchies at the Met steps, Sarah dissected every interaction for hidden meanings and potential threats. The cognitive dissonance reached a crescendo when David planned a surprise weekend getaway for Sarah's birthday. Instead of feeling appreciated, Sarah experienced this gesture as overwhelming and suffocating. Her mind raced with thoughts like, "He's moving too fast," and "This feels like too much pressure," even though she had previously complained that past partners never made enough effort. The contradiction between wanting thoughtful gestures and feeling threatened by them created unbearable internal tension. Rather than examining why she felt conflicted about receiving the very treatment she claimed to want, Sarah resolved the dissonance by finding fault with David's approach. She convinced herself that truly compatible partners would intuitively know she preferred simple celebrations, ignoring the fact that she had never communicated this preference. This is where the fundamental attribution error comes into play. Sarah attributed David's surprise planning to character flaws, rather than considering external factors like his genuine desire to make her happy. The weekend getaway became a turning point, though not in the way David had hoped. Sarah spent most of the time mentally cataloging reasons why their relationship wouldn't work long-term. She fixated on their different music tastes, convinced herself that his career in teaching showed a lack of ambition, and decided that his close relationship with his family indicated an inability to be independent. Each perceived incompatibility felt like validation of her growing belief that they were fundamentally mismatched. What Sarah couldn't see at the time was how she was using the sunk cost fallacy in reverse. Instead of staying invested because of time and energy already spent, she was convincing herself that ending things sooner would prevent greater pain later. Her mind had become like Joe Goldberg from the Netflix series You, except instead of obsessing over someone she wanted, she was obsessing over reasons to push away someone who genuinely cared for her. The irony was devastating. The very person offering her the secure love she craved had become the target of her self-protective mechanisms. The relationship's end came not with a dramatic confrontation, but through a gradual withdrawal that left David confused and hurt. Sarah began responding to texts later, canceling plans more frequently, and creating emotional distance through 1,000 small cuts. When David finally asked what was wrong, Sarah had prepared a comprehensive list of incompatibilities that sounded rational and well-reasoned. She had successfully convinced herself that ending things was the logical choice, despite the hollow ache in her chest that suggested otherwise. But here's where understanding these patterns can transform everything. Recognizing when cognitive dissonance is driving self-destructive behavior opens up possibilities for different choices. The first step involves developing what psychologists call metacognition, thinking about thinking. When you notice yourself building cases against someone you care about, pause and examine the process itself rather than just the content of your concerns. Start by identifying your personal warning signs of cognitive dissonance in relationships. These might include suddenly noticing flaws that weren't bothering you before, feeling overwhelmed by gestures of affection, or finding yourself making mental lists of incompatibilities. The key is recognizing these patterns while they're happening rather than after the damage is done. Like Emily Cooper from Emily in Paris navigating cultural differences, you need to question whether your discomfort stems from genuine incompatibility or from unfamiliar but potentially positive experiences. When you catch yourself using confirmation bias, deliberately seek out contradictory evidence. If you're focusing on all the ways your partner annoys you, force yourself to list 3 things they do that you appreciate. This isn't about toxic positivity or ignoring legitimate concerns, but about ensuring you're seeing the complete picture rather than a selectively edited version that confirms your fears. The goal is balanced thinking, not unrealistic optimism. Practice distinguishing between intuition and anxiety. Genuine incompatibilities usually reveal themselves through consistent patterns over time and feel grounded in reality. Anxiety-driven concerns often feel urgent and catastrophic, but may be based on assumptions rather than evidence. Ask yourself, am I responding to what's actually happening or to what I'm afraid might happen? This distinction becomes clearer with practice and honest self-reflection. Develop strategies for managing the discomfort of cognitive dissonance without immediately rushing to resolve it through relationship sabotage. Sometimes the tension between wanting closeness and fearing vulnerability needs to be tolerated rather than eliminated. Think of it like building emotional muscle. The discomfort is often a sign of growth rather than danger. Practice sitting with uncertainty instead of creating false certainty through premature relationship endings. Communication becomes crucial here, though it requires vulnerability that avoidants typically resist. Instead of internally processing every concern alone, try sharing your conflicted feelings with your partner. This might sound like, I'm feeling overwhelmed by how much I care about you, and part of me wants to run away. This isn't about anything you've done wrong. It's about my own fears of getting hurt. This level of honesty feels terrifying, but often strengthens relationships rather than destroying them. Challenge the fundamental attribution error by considering external explanations for your partner's behavior before jumping to character judgments. If they seem distant one day, consider whether they might be stressed at work, dealing with family issues, or simply having an off day rather than concluding they're losing interest in you. Similarly, examine your own motivations honestly. Are you creating distance because of genuine problems or because intimacy feels threatening? Work on developing distress tolerance skills that allow you to experience uncomfortable emotions without immediately acting to eliminate them. This might involve deep breathing exercises, mindfulness practices, or simply reminding yourself that feelings are temporary and don't require immediate action. The urge to flee from vulnerability is often strongest just before breakthrough moments in relationships. Create space between feeling and action by implementing a 24-hour rule before making relationship decisions during emotional peaks. When you feel overwhelmed by closeness or convinced you need to end things, commit to waiting one full day before acting on those feelings. Often, the intensity passes and reveals itself as temporary anxiety rather than permanent incompatibility. This cooling off period can prevent impulsive decisions that destroy valuable connections. Consider the long-term consequences of your patterns rather than just the immediate relief of avoiding vulnerability. Ask yourself, where has this approach led me in the past? Am I creating the very loneliness I'm trying to avoid? Sometimes the fear of potential hurt causes more actual pain than taking the risk of staying open would. Like Serena van der Woodsen from Gossip Girl learning from her relationship patterns, growth requires honest assessment of what's working and what isn't. Finally, recognize that changing these deeply ingrained patterns takes time and patience with yourself. The goal isn't perfection, but progress. Moments of awareness, instances of choosing connection over protection, and gradually building tolerance for the uncertainty that comes with genuine intimacy. Each small step forward builds momentum for larger changes over time. The tragedy of avoidant self-destruction lies not in the fear of vulnerability itself, which is deeply human and understandable, but in how that fear gets disguised as rational decision-making. When cognitive dissonance arises between the desire for love and the terror of potential loss, the mind creates elaborate justifications for choosing safety over connection. Understanding these mental processes illuminates a path forward that honors both the need for security and the longing for meaningful relationships. Sarah's story doesn't have to end with regret and loneliness, and neither does yours. The same analytical mind that can construct cases against love can be retrained to recognize when fear is masquerading as logic. The key lies in developing awareness of these patterns while they're unfolding rather than after the relationship has been dismantled. This awareness creates choice where previously there was only automatic reaction. Remember that the discomfort of cognitive dissonance often signals growth opportunities rather than relationship problems. When you feel torn between moving closer and pulling away, that tension might be indicating you're approaching something valuable rather than something dangerous. Learning to tolerate this uncertainty, to sit with conflicting feelings without immediately resolving them through sabotage, opens up possibilities that self-protection alone cannot provide. The path forward requires courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in the presence of fear. Every time you choose honest communication over silent withdrawal, every moment you seek evidence that challenges your anxious assumptions, every decision to stay present when every instinct screams to run, you're rewiring patterns that have kept you safe but also kept you alone. Your cognitive biases and self-protective mechanisms developed for good reasons. They helped you survive difficult experiences and navigate relationships that may have been genuinely unsafe or unreliable. The goal isn't to eliminate these protective instincts, but to update them based on current reality rather than past wounds. You can honor your need for security while remaining open to authentic connection. The most profound realization for many avoidants is that the very vulnerability they've been avoiding is often the path to the security they've been seeking. Real safety in relationships comes not from maintaining distance, but from building trust through gradual, mutual revelation of authentic selves. This process requires time, patience, and the willingness to stay engaged even when discomfort arises. Take action today by implementing just one of these strategies when you notice yourself building cases against someone you care about. Start small. Maybe it's pausing for 24 hours before making relationship decisions or actively looking for evidence that contradicts your anxious assumptions. Each moment of awareness, each choice to act differently despite familiar fears, creates ripples of change that extend far beyond any single relationship. The love and connection you've been seeking is possible, but it requires the courage to stop being your own biggest obstacle. Your story can have a different ending, one where cognitive dissonance becomes a signal for growth rather than a trigger for self-destruction.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to better understand avoidance, relationships, and psychological biases, then subscribe to our channel, because you deserve beautiful relationships.